This is the NA Happy Hour.
Oh, good. I switched my heating on about 20 minutes too late before the call. I'm fully togged up.
Nice. I'm actually, if it makes you feel any better, or it doesn't, I'm thinking about taking my jumper off because
Careful now.
my heating has been on full blast since about
I'm currently double fisting my morning coffee and a beer.
Nice. That's the way to roll.
Right?
That's the way to roll.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh my God, look at my desk.
That's the benefits of NA right there.
Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Ian will be coming on in just a minute.
How's it going, Tyler? You all right?
Absolutely, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm all right, thank you.
Hey, we just did a podcast episode with Amanda last night. Really well.
Oh, did you? Oh, cool.
She's doing really well too. Recently, she just sold out actually of her product, and
Oh, really?
getting in the U.S. recently, such as yourself. And yeah, so far it's going pretty good.
Nice. That's cool. I like that.
How's getting in the U.S. going so far? Is it a clean, transfer over, or?
There's, you guys love your red tape.
Yes, we do.
Hey, but come on. Not much.
I thought the UK had some bureaucratic weirdness, but you guys really go to town.
Fucked up stuff here for sure.
Oh yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Pretty fucked up.
You can say we label our podcast as explicit. You can say whatever you want on here.
It's excellent. No, so we're currently waiting for. We've got our online store ready to go, and we're currently just waiting for an EIN number from the IRS. And
but apparently,
because
nobody's been into the IRS office for about 9 months, so there's basically a big stack of paperwork, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll get to you. We'll get to you." It's like, I got shit to do.
Yeah, but they get to you quicker if you've got a social security number, apparently. So we're now trying to see if we can get someone.
I mean, you
want
to hire me on? It's like you want to hire me on for your anchor point. I got a social security number.
You can be our IRS enforcer.
IRS liaison. Let's go with that. I don't know how much enforcing I'll be able to do against the IRS, but I can be a liaison, a point of contact.
How's been dealing with the TTB here?
Yeah, it's been alright actually. I think they were. Well, James knows more about this than I do.
It was. It's a semi-compliment. It was easier than Canada. To get it passed. We did have, so I think the pail went through first, and that was fine. And then we put another one through, and they noticed something that was exactly the same on the one they'd approved, but someone else noticed something else. So we had to kind of walk it back and change a few bits, but it was pretty painless up until now. We're doing shrink wrapped cans at the moment, which means if we do need to tweak something, we can be pretty quick with kind of making adjustments if we need to. We're about to move over to painted cans, which we need to do about 250,000 of in one shot to make it cost effective, really. But they do look kind of far better in terms of finish, and we've got to make sure it's right. So we're really kind of making sure we've got everything covered off. But we've got cans, we've got beer. It's in Chicago. It's next step.
Absolutely. And with that process, well, I kind of have two things with that. Did you have to change your beer from saying alcohol-free to non-alcoholic then in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, so we can't say beer. So there's a few terminology changes. We really pushed that we're gluten-free over in the UK. We're kind of used to the international changes. Canada, you have to have dual language with absolute parity between French and English. The US, we can't say gluten-free on. We can't refer to it as beer. which is why we originally they were just called Big Drop Pale Ale, Big Drop Stout, and now they're called Big Drop Galactic, Big Drop Pine Trail, because it was trying to move away the styles of beer that we can't use the names of, because like ale and beer and that sort of thing we can't use, and just to have a kind of globally referenced name. So if you talk about Pine Trail, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Plus, it gives it more.
So
of
there's a
crafty
feature download to
feel to
change
it.
it. Yeah. If you add a weird name to a beer, it immediately gives you far greater craft credentials.
Totally. And did you have an issue getting cans? Because I know that, like, if you had like the main finish on it, I forget the exact term that you were talking about, like that prime time look on it. That was kind of harder to do because the companies who sell the cans, they're so backed up, and it's kind of hard for them because it's a one-stop shop, right? They just do the whole entire can themselves and then ship it to you, correct?
The hardest thing we've had, so over here there's black tops on our cans, which really make the colors stand out, and we'll eventually have black tops in the US as well. The biggest issue we had for quite a while was cardboard boxes everywhere. Cardboard boxes became like hen's teeth. It's really, really hard to get hold of because everyone was online, no one was going into retail, and everyone was shipping something in a cardboard box. So getting a good stock of cardboard boxes was hard for about 3 months.
Absolutely. So yeah, Ian, what's up, dude?
How are you guys? Sorry I'm late. It was technical difficulties. How are you guys? How are things? Thanks for joining us.
No worries. How's it going, Ian?
Yeah, really good. Thanks.
You don't sound like a local.
No, I'm in Dublin, in Ireland.
Oh, you're in Dublin, Ireland.
So you do sound like a local.
You are very much a local.
It depends on who's answering that question. Local to you guys, yeah, more so than us.
I was like, is he down the road? Where's he? Okay.
How local is local?
Cool.
Yeah. So how are you keeping? Anyway, it's obviously, as I said, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on the latest collab series as well.
Thank you very much. We like that. We like that a lot.
Yeah, looking forward to trying it.
Rob's Tower of beer cans is eventually going to become his undoing.
Just getting,
we'll hit 2 more sets of collabs and they'll fall on him.
That's it. I like to just rack them up now for the journos and the investors. Just going, yeah, we do loads of beer. Ooh, look at the beer. Look at the beer. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Look at the beer. Look at the beer.
I mean, the bright colors are going to sell some people. So.
Yeah, we just wanted it to be big and fun, and not take it too seriously, really. Yeah, I like it. They stand out. You can see them on a shelf. That's the most important thing.
Yeah,
you can see them on a shelf.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's just get on into it. We had an intro to it. So yeah, if you guys can maybe just like introduce yourselves, we'll just get into Big Drop in its entirety and just go from there. Maybe talk about the industry as well as drink your beautiful product, and yeah, just kind of have a little chill happy hour.
Cool. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Shall I just? I guess you're recording. You just edited.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just recording as is. We just edit it all up. So yeah, we're literally just
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. No worries. Okay. So I am Rob Fink. I'm the founder of Big Drop Brewing, and I'm here with my friend and business partner, Mr. Kindle.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm James. I'm the other founder of Big Drop, and Rob and I've known each other for far too long, and well, not far too long, a very long time. Far too long, probably a bit disingenuous.
Is it nearly?
Probably about 30 years, probably coming up to 30 years. So we were at high school together. We've been in bands together. We've lived together. We've got exceedingly drunk together, and we started the world's biggest independent NA together.
Yeah. Why not?
That's awesome.
Why not? So how did that friendship turn into this? So kind of what got you guys passionate about NAs and what really got to the level of creating Big Drop?
So it was it all sort of stemmed from the fact that I for my sins, my background is as a lawyer, and I was working in the city of London back in whatever that decade's called that begins with 2010. I don't know what you call it, the tensies, the twinsies, whatever it is, but that decade. And I'd started a law firm in 2010 with another guy, not James, a different guy. But law and sort of the City of London back then had a real boozy culture, and I would have very many enjoyable long lunches and boozy sessions in the pub with my clients and colleagues and my extended network. And then in 2014, so about 4 years after I'd started this law firm, I had my first son and realised that turning up back home at 6 o'clock in the evening, 3 sheets to the wind, as we say over here. Don't know if that's a thing over in over in the US. We have plenty of nice sayings for it, but my favourite, 3 sheets to the wind with a little baby is not a thing. That's frowned upon both by the mother of your child and the government social services. So I fundamentally just I stopped drinking for about 6 months. Didn't drink at all for about 6 months. But realised that I was still having to go to the pub in the afternoon with all of my colleagues and networks and business contacts because it was work. But there was no great alcohol-free craft beer offerings at all. So all I was able to drink was not very nice, non-alcoholic, as you guys say, alcohol-free, as we say, mass-produced lagers. And I'm doing this as somebody who really enjoys craft beer, and I'm stood there watching all of my mates drinking pale ales and IPAs and stouts and whatever floats your boat, all these crazy wonderful beers that we got in the UK after we had our own sort of craft beer revolution back in probably about 2002 2003, something like that. And I just thought, this is stupid, this is ridiculous. Nobody has paid any attention to non-alcoholic beer from a quality perspective, from a choice perspective at all. I couldn't see any good reason why that was the case. I was like, well, people obviously drink non-alcoholic beer, because if they didn't drink non-alcoholic beer, then they wouldn't make it. So there's obviously a market for it. So should we just try and make it interesting? So there's a long way around of saying that I was living in London and James was living in Ipswich, where I now live again, which is our hometown in the UK. And I went back to see him one weekend, and I just said, "I've got an idea. Why don't we see if we can make some non-alcoholic craft beer?" That doesn't seem to have been done, and that was the start of it, really.
That's awesome. What was the first beer that you guys kind of experimented with, and can you talk a little bit about going through that process of like deciding what to do and?
I think full disclosure, Rob and I, when we started this, had no idea how to brew beer, and we realized quite quickly that we kind of had the business experience and we had the marketing experience to start something, but we didn't have any ability to make product. So we found Johnny, who is Johnny Clayton, who is still our head brewer today. He does all of our R&D and looks after the kind of quality process of all of the brewing operations. And Johnny's a kind of well-known craft brewer and has is ex-Wild Beer Company over here, and they make kind of very exciting, very strong lactobacillus based challenging beers. And we asked around, and everyone said, you need to speak to Johnny. Johnny's the guy you need to speak to. And we went to Johnny with the challenge of, we want to make a really good alcohol-free beer. And Johnny's first response, which has really set exactly how we work today, is you want to make a really good beer that just so happens to be non-alcoholic. And that's exactly what we do. It's about making really good beer first. It's not about going out to make an NA beer. It's about going out to make a really good beer. It just so happens that it's 0.5%. So once we got Johnny on board and worked out what we wanted to do, one of the things that Rob was missing out on when he was going out to do his lunches and hadn't seen anyone do, and we wanted to try and crack, was a stout, because there was lots of light beers, you got the Erdinger Weiss beer, you got the kind of the old guard of Bitburger Drive and Beck's Blue, and we wanted to see if it was possible to do with a dark beer, because we hadn't seen anyone do it. So it would be interesting to see if we could do it. So Johnny went off and did a few test brews, and we figured out pretty quickly that it was possible, and you could make a really good stout at 0.5%.
Absolutely. And how long did that take? Did it take a while? A lot of
Not very long.
No, I mean,
yeah.
probably if there was a life story movie of it, it would be a montage of some sort of Johnny kind of sweating away trying to make this kind of magical stout. But I think Johnny turned it around kind of surprisingly quick. And within 3 trial brews, it was like, wow, okay, that's the thing.
It would be the world's worst montage.
Yeah, it would be two shots.
Johnny says, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a go. Try this. Yeah, that works. Cracking. Let's move on." No, so yeah, it was quite funny when we like you read a lot of the origin stories about non-alcoholic breweries now, and some of the big boys coming in releasing non-alcoholic versions of their best-selling line or whatever, Budweiser Zero, Heineken Zero, and they always say, "Oh yeah, it's taken us years and years to perfect the technology for this," and I sort of go, "Really? Like, has it? What? Why? You're insert big global brewer here.
You're Heineken. How have you not done this overnight?"
Yeah, it's like, surely you just decide to do it, and then like 4 weeks later, it's like, okay, yeah, we got it. So we had a bit.
We actually had the head brewer. We were at an NA beer festival. And we had the head brewer from Heineken come out. He was over from Amsterdam at this NA beer festival and come stand at our stand for like half an hour, and they'd just launched Heineken 0.0 over here, and stood there for about half an hour and was just kind of pummeling notes into his phone.
I said to Johnny,
okay,
say nothing, Johnny. Johnny,
say absolutely nothing.
Quick, say nothing.
Why do you guys think these big companies go for alcohol removal technology rather than trying to produce it naturally? Is it a sustainability factor or just terrible problem solving?
I think it's about a truly global market, because we're 0.5, which is non-alcoholic, and the 0.0s that are being released in the US and the same in the UK and in Europe, doesn't really matter whether it's 0.0 or 0.5, but there are places in the world where actually there is a difference between a 0.5 and a 0.0 beer. So in the Middle East, that's not a market for us, because the 0.5 of alcohol is that knocks us out of the park. And then I think in territories, countries, in Australia, for example, we have to label it as ultra low alcohol beer, because the Australians have a very strict interpretation of what free from constitutes, or they're like, well, it's not non-alcoholic, it's got 0.5, so it's like, okay, well, we're ultra low. So if you have a 0.0 beer, you're able to go in and then you can be non-alcoholic or alcohol free. But I don't know if that's the reason, but I suspect that's the reason.
I think one of the things is just the shit is like the comparison of being in a speedboat and being in an oil tanker, and that we're the speedboat. We can move pretty quickly. We can be pretty agile with what we're doing. We can brew fast, and we can be kind of pretty startup minded about it. If you're a corporate and you're trying to kind of move things forward or accelerate things, you've got so much inertia pushing against you to actually make change or adjust the brewing process that it gets so slow, and it gets hooked up in so many things. And even when you get to the end of it, mentioning no names, it doesn't always go right, and you have to kind of pull it back in. And that we have the advantage of being a kind of we're still at cheeky startup, move fast, develop things. And over time, it will become harder to be that reactive. But while we can do it, we can still move really fast, and we can outmaneuver a lot of the big corporate entities that do stuff slower and probably have to go through box ticking and bureaucracy before they can actually get stuff done.
Absolutely. And I guess so. Like going off of that, so like the way you differentiate from these big kahunas is not only like your quality of product, but it's your business model. So can you guys kind of get into, what I think is a genius business model myself, and kind of how that's really, what'd you say?
In terms of the contract brewing?
Yes. And kind of like walk it through of like how you can, go to all these countries and why your product is going everywhere now.
I'm going to talk about this a lot more this year, because I think that contract brewing has got it, just for whatever reason has got a bad name in craft beer, and it winds me up because it's almost like, craft beer is seen as, I don't know, left field, moves fast, revolutionary, da 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 da. Oh, but in order to qualify, you have to own the means of production. It's like, really? Okay, so what? I need to go out and raise hundreds of thousands, if not more, dollars to go and build this thing to make my beer in order to give it credibility. And I never really bought into that as a thing. People would disagree with me. That's fine, but I don't see that. What I'm interested in is, what does the beer taste like at the end of it? And has it been made by people who know what they're doing in a great brewery? So but from a business perspective, the reason that we started on the contract brewing basis was two reasons. One, as James said, we're not brewers. James is I don't know, how do you define yourself, James, as a professional? Yeah, he's pulling a face.
Tinkerer.
Yeah, tinkerer. James is a tinkerer.
I don't know. So I was a graphics for 20 years and ran my own agencies and things like that. And then I went into technology and started building software as a service forms. And then did Big Drop.
Yeah.
So
And-
I've kind of
yeah.
I have lots of different hats.
I'm seeing
And
a
I'm an
lot of
ex-lawyer.
resemblance between us, James. You were doing. I'm in IT right now, and it's like this beer is looking better and better than dealing with useless systems that continuously crash, no matter how many times you try to fix them.
James definitely gets fed up with my emails that just say, James, Google's not working. Can you make it work, please? Or shit like that. No, but it was necessity at the beginning. It was necessity at the beginning because we didn't know how to brew beer particularly well, and we certainly didn't know how to brew great non-alcoholic beer. So we went and found Johnny, and then it was like, well, okay, I've still got a day job. James has got a day job. Johnny's on a contract. Do I really want to go and raise, I don't know, £250,000, $500,000 to go and build a small brewery somewhere? And I was of the view that this idea is either going to work or it's either going to work really well or it's going to fail spectacularly really quickly. And so why would I go and buy a brewery, assuming I could afford it, which I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So we ended up using other people's breweries. That's just what happens. But then it means that model just means that we can brew it wherever we want. Like you say, Tyler, as a business model, we brew it in Melbourne, in London, Ontario, and now in Chicago, as well as I think 5 breweries in the UK. And I like it as a business model because provenance is important. And I think if something should be important in craft beer, then I think provenance is one of them. It's, you come down to a sort of a carbon footprint argument that actually the greenest beer you can drink is the beer that's brewed as close to you as possible. That's a simple fact. That's not really particularly controversial. So if I can brew the beer as close to the people who want to drink it as possible, then that's only improving any eco credentials that we might want to hang our hat on. It's not something we particularly talk about. So that if you drink a Big Drop beer in Chicago or the Midwest, then it's a Chicago beer so far as I'm concerned, because it's brewed in Chicago by Chicagoans, and it's brewed using the ingredients that brewery would use to brew their own beer and their own brands beers. And God forbid, should it ever make a profit, then we will pay taxes in the US as well, because it's brewed by a US subsidiary of Chicago. So that's a local craft beer as far as I'm concerned. And it means that we can sort of spread our devious tentacles around the world and conquer NA beer everywhere.
And how do you keep your
I
product?
think the other really interesting thing, or the really important thing as well, is to get across is that there's the just because we contract brew doesn't mean there's not a duty of care within the team to oversee the quality of the product. That's exactly Johnny's role within the business, is to get lab data back, to trial brews, to get beers sent over for us to try, and to make sure that what we're brewing in each territory is exactly how we expect it to be brewed. And we work with fantastic brewing teams we've got the guys at Great Central in Chicago, and we've got
guys in Australia, and we've got guys in Canada, and they're fantastic brewing teams. But we've got Johnny making sure the entire brewing operation and everything is exactly how we want it to be. So we're not kind of palming the operation off to someone and going, right, you're contracted to make our beer, and that's where that stops. Let us know when it's ready. Johnny's kind of, real purpose within the business and the real oversight that he has is making sure that we are happy with the product that's going out, and it's exactly kind of what we expect it to be in terms of quality. Which, I guess some people can form a picture with contract brewing that's not the case. That we just hand that bit off to other people, but it's making sure that we work with teams that get it exactly how Johnny wants it.
Absolutely. So is the key not only just to make the quality overall the same, but is it the taste also, or just all together? Because I feel like it's probably inevitable it's going to be tasting different. So should the consumer expect a beer in Chicago to taste different compared to in the UK?
I think there are teams, there are probably dozens, if not hundreds of people, probably not hundreds, but dozens of people at, big breweries around Europe and the US, whose sole responsibility is to ensure that if you open a bottle of Heineken, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but as far as I'm aware, Heineken brews in Australia. So they contract brew. Heineken contract brews in Australia. You do not ship the volume of Heineken to Australia from the Netherlands that you need to supply Australia. You brew it in Australia. That's pretty straightforward. And there will be dozens of people whose job it is at Heineken to make sure that beer tastes exactly the same as it does in the Netherlands, and that's fine. We're not at that point where we're able to make sure that each beer tastes exactly the same. Johnny's job is to make sure that does this pale ale that's brewed in Chicago, Toronto, Melbourne, and the UK taste like a Big Drop pale ale, and is the quality absolutely bang on? That's his job. So I'm pretty relaxed about saying, yeah, if you drink a Big Drop Pine Trail pale ale in Chicago, and then one day you jump on a plane and fly to London and drink a Big Drop pale ale in the UK, they should be the same beer for all intents and purposes, but are they going to taste a little bit different? Probably, because that's life, and we're a 17-person company. So I'm pretty relaxed about that.
Can you talk a little bit about your vetting process for how you find the right contract brewers? Because I know personally there's a bunch of contract brewers in Maryland. So how did you find and narrow down that you were going to use this one in Chicago? Or was it just, well, they're available, let's use them?
We did. I did have Chicago in mind as as the place to plant our flag in the US. That was sort of something that I'd wanted to do because I like Chicago. I haven't traveled hugely in the States, but I've been to New York a few times. I've been to LA and California, and I spent some time in Chicago when my brother got married in the US a while back. And I really like Chicago. I think it's a really cool city. There's loads going on, but it's just a bit more not relaxed, but New York and LA, love them. It's quite hard work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the hardest markets to get into for beverages.
And it's insanely hard. It's like,
let's succeed there though. They're it. I mean, once you succeed in both of those markets, I feel as though that's when you conquer the U.S. pretty much.
Yeah, and talk to me again in a couple of years. We'll see how we're doing. But to start with, I was just like, let's go to Chicago. Chicago's cool, and I'd been introduced to. It was a bit like the stars aligned a little bit because that was always in the back of my mind, and then I was introduced to a chap called Tony Bowker, who used to be the CFO at Goose Island a while back, and has worked in the Chicago beer ecosystem for many years, and was happy to give us a sounding board and do some work for us and with us. And then I started looking at contract breweries, phoned a few, spoke to a few, emailed a few, and you kind of get a gist. You get a gist quite early on if they're just so some people just ignore you because they think you're an idiot. It's like, well, I'm not. No, that's not a thing. Nobody drinks non-alcoholic beer. Clearly, there's no business there, so they don't answer you.
They're going to be
the second people will speak
then.
to you, but they're looking at it from a pure business perspective, and then the third people are really excited by it. They're like, "Whoa, shit, yeah, I've never really thought about this. This is amazing." And then you send them some beer, and they're like, "Whoa, okay, this is really good. Yeah, we want to work with you." And David Avram at Great Central Brewery was one of those guys. You know, spoke to him, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, I didn't think about this, but I can see that this is a thing, and we really want to work with you." So it's more about, there's plenty of people who've got all the right kit and all the right expertise and all the bells and whistles and the lab and all that kind of thing. For me, it's about an attitude to the sector generally as well that determines it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we got the contractor down. So what was your idea of how we can get this to the consumer? Was it to get it in the distributors right away? Or was it, do you guys have like a warehouse that then you ship directly out of from your, direct to consumer, from people ordering on your website? Like, how does that go with your company?
So the great thing about non-alcoholic beer in the US is it falls outside of your 3-tier system. So we don't have to sell it to a distributor who has to sell it to a retailer who is the only one who can sell it to a consumer. We can go direct to the consumer online, and James is very much the one in Big Drop who's tasked with running that side of it,
making buttons work. I mean, traditionally in the UK, we didn't until lockdown kicked in around March last year. We weren't selling direct to consumer at all. We didn't, we were going through distributors, wholesalers, to supermarkets, to on-trade restaurants, bars, and that sort of thing, and doing more the traditional model. But when all the pubs and bars and restaurants suddenly closed their doors, we had to move pretty quickly to get something running that we could sell direct to consumers. So we set up an online store in the UK pretty quickly, and that's now a full-time thing. So we have a team that is running our UK store. We've got a store running in Canada. We're about to launch one in the US that we can ship directly, and there's about to be one in March, April time. There'll be one in Australia as well, and we've got an in-house team, including myself, that looks after the e-commerce side of things. And if you can find the right fulfillment house, and as Rob was saying, you can work outside the 3-tier system in the States, then the consumer model and doing it through online and having subscriptions that people can join and that sort of thing is, you got to go for it.
Absolutely. And I think something unique with that is you could probably ship directly to retailers, not even just consumers. So did you guys just get it in like a cold storage facility after the contractor makes it, ships it to the cold storage, and then you can just ship directly to retailers and it goes to like UPS or FedEx? Yeah. Is that really just how?
That's fundamentally how it works. Yeah, we pick the beer up from the brewery. We've got two. Well, we don't own it. We hire space in it, obviously, but there's 2 warehouses. One of which is the D2C, direct to consumer fulfillment warehouse, and the other one is the warehouse that distributors come and pick it up from. And we're talking to distributors all the time. But it was really interesting, and I'm sure Tony won't mind me saying this, but Tony was getting a bit stressed out that we weren't signing a particular contract with a particular distributor because they were, they're busy, they've got stuff to do. And people don't, I think they see NA craft coming, they understand that it's going to be a thing, but actually getting people to engage with it meaningfully and say, yeah, okay, I'll sign a contract, we'll buy a beer off you, that's fine, because we think there's a space for it. That's another matter. So he was getting really stressed out about it, and I was like, don't worry about it. It's fine, because we've got a guy on the ground now. He'd just take it around the stores. It's fine. And we've got an arrangement now with a guy. He's got a van. We'll just start putting it into retail. And even when the bars and when the pubs and when the restaurants open up again, we'll bring you a case of Big Drop every week or so. And so there's a great opportunity for us to build it from the ground up, not just from a D2C basis, but in retail and in the on-premise, and then hopefully, you know, we can sort of go back to those distributors that are a little bit reluctant and say, look what we're doing, look what we've done. This is happening, which we wouldn't be able to do if it was alcoholic beer. You can't do that. Absolutely. So there's a real big opportunity there.
Totally. It'll be easy to show distributors, you know, that you're doing well if you're literally getting it into retailers yourself, and it shows proof of concept from a business perspective. Absolutely.
And it's always, it's just a bit, it's always, and it's the same in the UK. It's just proof of concept. You know, I remember 4 or 5 years ago going around bottle shops and independent pubs and just saying, okay, what non-alcoholic beer have you got? You've got that. Okay, that's not very good. Try that. It's really good, isn't it? Yeah, try that. I don't think I'll sell any. Really? Okay, fine. And you just have to keep grinding away until, you know, some people take it and then they sell it and they go, oh yes, okay, there is a market for it, isn't it? Just got to keep going, one foot after another.
Absolutely. So can we kind of transfer in of like just your product in general? Of like maybe you guys talk about like why you personally think it's better than others, and kind of just talk about your flagships and what we have as a whole variety of types of beers. And
if I can interject quickly, I will say right off the bat that this is better than the 3 beers I tried last night that will remain unnamed. This is my first Big Drop beer that I've had. It's the Pine Trail, and it is really good.
Nice. Well, there we go.
And it could just be that I'm not awake right now, and it's 10:30 in the morning, but it is really good.
Yeah, I just.
You got Kinzig.
Yeah, I just ordered a can of it. God, it was so nice. I tried was it the Fire Cider a couple of weeks ago as well?
Yeah, the pumpkin.
Yeah, my God, that was.
If you're a fan of the flavoured stouts, the collab we did stock is a coconut stout, and that's really good. If you like, especially if you like the Kinzig and the Fire Cider, that'll be right up your street.
James, we're making the Americans sad now. They can't get this stuff.
It's the promise of it might come one day.
It's on its way. It's on its way. We promise.
We have our plugs. We have you guys.
Just don't send it from the business account.
Yeah. So what did we do in the? I mean, the first thing to say about Big Drop is that it is. We always intended it very much to be a craft brewery. There are, and there's nothing wrong with this as a model. I'm not knocking it at all. But there's quite a few, you know, small independents, and they bring out 1, 2, or 3 beers, and that's it. And then they sit on it, and you know that's all they're going to plug, and that's all they're going to do. That's all they're going to try and sell. And I've always said to everyone at Big Drop, it's like, no, I want to do this. I want to do that. Why can't we do that? Let's just bring this type of beer out. And so I think we added it up. And with the collabs, I think we've done about 22 different beers over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But the core range very much is the flagship beer is the Pine Trail, which is what you're drinking, Chris. That was the second one we did. The first was the stout, and the second one was the Pine Trail. And that's our biggest seller. And it is, I think it's a good solid. It's like an English style pale ale, so it's a bit more bitter than you know, what you might call a West Coast IPA. There's less juice on it, but it's got that really great bitter hop flavour that just really sort of makes you want to drink some more of it. So that's a very, I would say, good. Very good NA pale ale. I'm just trying to think about what cracking awards we've won on that one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to have a look for you.
Yeah, there's a few. It's won 2 or 3 World Beer Awards. And the early ones it was winning. There was, you know, as with our stout, it was winning in full strength categories because there was no low strength, or, you know, you had a session category which was kind of, you know, 2.3 upwards. Or you had flavored or like the flavored stout categories and that sort of thing, which is what the stout won in, and that beat like a 6.2% porter or something at the first award it won, and that, you know, when they're judging these competitions, they don't look at the ABV and they don't know what the ABV is. They're looking for balance, and they're looking for flavor profile, and they're looking for quality. So Big Drop can stand up against those because the quality and the balance is there, and that comes from the brewing process. And I think one of the first questions a lot of people ask us is, how do you take the alcohol out? And the answer is we don't. We brew it naturally to 0.5%. Or thereabouts, never more than 0.5. Some of them come in at kind of closer to 0.4, but the whole thing we'll always say is that it's never more than 0.5%. But that's because we're brewing naturally to 0.5%. We're letting the entire fermentation process finish. We're not stopping it early or halting it. And that means that because we're not reversing anything back out or doing anything post-production wise that's taking any of the alcoholic content away, all the flavor remains. Which is where you come with the traditional full strength brands doing the alcohol-free version, like the Beck's Blue and that sort of thing. They're heating the alcohol, and the alcohol is then evaporating, and it's taking some of the flavor with it as well. We don't have that problem because of the natural brew process that we've got, and the brewing process that Johnny came up with, which is, for all intents and purposes, a traditional brewing process. There's no kind of nothing weird going on with what we're doing. The amount of ingredients that we're using is different to the process, but other than that, we're making beer.
Absolutely. And with ethanol, I feel like it's such a huge part of taste in beer, though. So like with these competitions, so like I feel like with all these judges, when they taste the products, like it has to, like the mouthfeel of it, like I feel like it has to affect it. So like how does your product make up for that in the sense of just overall taste? Because I feel like ethanol is such a big part of it.
Yeah.
Aspect.
So many, not all, but many of our beers include lactose, which is an unfermentable sugar. So you might have to edit this out. I don't know if you can hear this, but this is my 3-year-old who's obviously absolutely screaming his nuts off outside. I don't know what's happened.
I'm not a fan of lactose.
He's not a fan of lactose. I tell you what, you edit this bit, James, you take over, you know the shtick, lactose, unfermentable sugar, mouthfeel, viscosity, compare it to the legs of a good wine, yada, yada.
So it's all about, when you, so a good one is with a glass of wine or a glass of brandy or whiskey or something like that. If you kind of turn the glass and you can see the liquid stick to the side of the legs of the glass, and similar sort of thing happens inside your mouth. So when you're tasting a beer, a full strength beer, or you're tasting a whiskey or a wine or anything, the ethanol is then sticking the flavor to the sides of your mouth, and it's in there. The problem that you get with a lot of or kind of last generation, I suppose you could call it, NA beers, is that because they take all of that away, as soon as you've swallowed, the flavor has disappeared. So you'll get that initial kind of crisp, with the lagers, you'll get that crisp flavor of the lager. You take a sip, as soon as you swallow it, the flavor is gone, and you have to then have another sip to try and remember what it tasted like. And there's not a great deal of flavor in there in the first place because you've taken a lot of the taste away while you've cooked the alcohol off. So we use lactose in probably about 75-80% of the beers we make, and that lactose is an unfermentable sugar, which means it won't convert into alcohol, but it also means that it adds a viscosity to the beer, which means that when you sip it and you swallow it, some of the remains in your mouth, so you can taste it after the liquid is gone.
Absolutely. Does that add more calories to it as well? It's unfermented sugar. Does it affect anything else?
A little bit. It's a negligible amount, and most of our beers are comparatively very low calorie compared to full strength beers. And I think one of the things that we have, because particularly in the UK, is we have to put, and in the US as well, we have to put full nutritional information on there, so you can see how much fat, how much sugar, how many carbohydrates, what proteins are in there, all that sort of thing. In a lot of countries, you don't have to put that sort of labeling onto alcoholic products, onto beers. So people don't really know what the calorific content of the really high strength DDH IPAs they are drinking are. And they'd probably be shocked if they did see what they were. But the comparative difference with ours is that when I'm drinking a
Paradiso IPA, which will be over in the out in the States pretty soon. That's 61 calories a can on a 330 can, so probably 62, 63 calories on a 355. That's pretty low calorie for any sort of drink, especially one with, it does have sugars in it, it's got grains, it's got malts in it, it's a beer, it's only 63 calories. So the lactose will push it up a little bit, but nothing in the territory that you get with a full strength. And then we use a lot more lactose in our darker beers or our stouts, the milk stout in particular. And the milk stout traditionally would have had lactose in it or a derivative sugar in there anyway, hence the name. So I haven't got a can to hand, but that's slightly higher on the calorific content. But again, much lower than you get with your traditional craft full strength stouts and dark beers.
Absolutely. I don't think that's abnormal anyways. I feel like a lot of people add lactose to their beers, at least that I've heard, especially with the dark beers too, that aren't non-alcoholic.
No, the strange thing is that a lot of full strength brewers, especially on the kind of really high ends, the super mango-y, really kind of opaque IPAs, they're putting lactose in on top of the alcohol to make it even kind of thicker. And I don't really get that, because surely the alcohol is kind of is there for it. We're using it as a substitute for the mouthfeel, not anything more. But hey, craft beer is craft beer, so if people want to do you do what you want to do to a certain extent.
The beauty of it. So yeah, that's with the ingredients. So how about the naming of the beers and the looks? Like, who comes up with that stuff? That's kind of one of the most interesting things I find with Big Drop is definitely the cans and the names, like Galactic Milk Stout. Like, did we just choose names here? You guys just came together and just started choosing things?
Yeah, I mean, it's we do a lot of it in-house, and we work with a fantastic design studio in London who helped us with our packaging. I was doing all the packaging and design and branding, and the naming of Big Drop and everything was kind of, it's why, me and Rob started working together, was me coming in and doing that side of things. And you eventually get to a point where you're so close to it, it's very difficult to see where else to take it and where to move next with it and that sort of thing. So probably beginning of last year, when we evolved the design forward into new cans, and we wanted to start doing international sales, we bought a design agency in to work with me and our commercial director to evolve it and to start coming up with names for them rather than calling them by the style, because in the States we can't use ale as a name, we can't refer to it as beer. It becomes quite restrictive if you're always trying to use the style of the beer as the name of the beer when you do it. So we sat down and wanted to come up with names that kind of were quite not full craft beer quirky, but just a little bit interesting, and kind of also gave a hint as to what the flavor of the beer was, or what the appearance of the beer was. Mm-hmm. So Galactic is, it's space dark, and it's the blackness of the liquid. Paradiso is about the fruitiness of the citra. Pine Trail is that kind of the nose you get off the Pine Trail IPA, where you do have that kind of rich, the slightly bitter but very fresh smell. And then we've also got ones like the special editions we do, like Poolside, is about the kind of very summer, very light, super fruity flavors. And then you've got the Fire Cider, which is, again, it's setting you in a position. It's autumnal, it's rich, it's warm, it's got that kind of sweeter flavor. And then we've got kind of Kinzig is actually just named after one of the towns in the Black Forest. And because it's a Black Forest Gatto stout, we try and frame it a little bit with the naming in terms of what you're expecting to get. And then when we do collaboration brews, we let the breweries we're working with name it, and they come up with some absolutely bonkers names, and we kind of go, right, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want on the can, we'll go with that. That's your choice. Is Right Said Fred a thing in the United States?
That's far too sexy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that. So we did a Juniper Rye IPA, and that's called Right Said Fred. And they chose that.
if they're not a thing in the US, we should explain what Right Said Fred is, which is
definitely.
I'm going to leave it hanging, and then people can go off and find out for themselves.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Google Right Said Fred. I don't think you could find anything more British if you tried.
No, it's a very early '90s thing.
Mine Too Sexy, wasn't that the?
Yeah. And Deeply Dippy, I think, was the second one, and then that was
the second one.
That was it. So yeah, the guys from Fat Lizard named it Ride Said Fred, and then we put a taste profile on the back of each of our cans, and usually it's a little bit, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of what the flavor is, and then I think on the back of that one it's sexy and too sexy. So sexy it hurts. Is the other end of the flavor profile, and the kind of indicators right up there. But by all means,
which again will make sense if you Google Right Said Fred.
Right Said Fred, yeah. But look it up. I'm sure you'll love it. Or wonder what the hell we're talking about.
It's definitely Big Drop is definitely the craft of craft, for sure. All the way from naming your product to how you make it, etc. It's definitely like the craft of craft, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it competes with like athletic in the U.S. and who ends up being more the top dog. I'm looking forward to that, seeing the competition for sure. So what is the future of Big Drop, like as a whole? Like what are we trying to get towards, and what can people be looking towards?
I think we are probably we're where I wanted to be in terms of distribution. So we, like, people say, oh, how do you decide what countries to launch in? And for me, it's always been about, that's interesting you say that, that we're the craft of the craft, as it were, because it is, we've always pitched it as first and foremost, it's a craft beer, as James said, that happens to be non-alcoholic. That's very much secondary. So the countries that we do well in, and hopefully the US will be one of those as well, are countries where they've had a craft beer, revolution, renaissance, resurgence, whatever you want to call it, because people who drink craft beer, by and large, once there's been some interesting reactions so far I've seen on Instagram from Chicagoans going, what the fuck is this? Is non-alcoholic? Is this a thing now? Shit. But once they kind of get over that and try it, they're like, oh, yeah, that's good, isn't it? So I think we're where we need to be, where I want to be in terms of countries that we sell in. And it's about, for me, it will just be about continuing to release more styles and try and push the boundaries more and more of what you can do with non-alcoholic, what it can be understood to be. So it should, stop it being a distressed purchase and be a positive choice that people are like, yeah, I'll have a Big Drop tonight. That's cool. I'm happy with that. Push it more into that kind of arena. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So from a production standpoint, it seems as though you're trying to produce much more, make it more available for people. But what about like the marketing front, like people actually understanding these products and actually being known? Are you kind of like leaving that more on the back burner because you have companies like Heineken and stuff, and you're kind of just making sure you have those great products rather than focusing on mass marketing it, if that makes sense, opposed to focusing on producing
I think
products?
We work to we can ride the wave a little bit, as it were, because Heineken can throw a load more money into it than we ever could in terms of marketing for NA beers. That's absolutely great, but not, and we don't see Heineken as a threat to us because not everyone drinks Heineken. Equally, not everyone drinks craft beer, but we're there for the craft beer people who enjoy the more interesting, more dynamic flavors of what craft beer has to offer compared to, Heineken is Heineken is Heineken. It's straight, it's crisp, it's a lager. That that Heineken serves a purpose. That's fine. And they can really grow the awareness of the NA market. What our goal is and what we try to do is try and change people's mindset of what you can do with NA above and beyond a 0.0 lager, which is the expectation for what most people's expectation is for an NA beer. And also just try and, we want to grow our brand. growing the space is one thing that's interesting to us, but the real focus is on making sure that people get to try a product, the product is still really good, and people understand what Big Drop's about and what we're trying to achieve within the space, which is to not go up against the Heinekens of the world, but to create something that is a craft option in an NA space.
Absolutely. And I think, like, as it sits now, I think everyone here at the NA Happy Hour can contest to this, is that we just need more products to be more available and just better products. The communities are there. All they need is just to be more available for people and actually have them being produced. So I think companies such as yourself, as long as you keep doing what you're doing, I can only see like how big this industry can get. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Absolutely.
Big is the operative word.
Big. Go big.
Big drop. Big drop.
Yep.
So yeah, Chris, Ian, do you have anything to add, or shall we conclude this beautiful episode up?
No, I'm just in regards to availability in Ireland. I've seen it in Holland and Barra in a couple of shops around Dublin. Is there anywhere else? Or
we were having conversations with a big distributor in the Republic of Ireland, and they came to nothing because of COVID, basically, and a lot of distributors around Europe who previously, Europe, I think, is a bit more ahead of the curve in terms of NA awareness and availability and acceptability and all the rest of it. But even notwithstanding that, a lot of people just put the brakes on stuff. So we need to sort of go back to it probably later on this year. I think, a lot's going to depend. Everything depends on vaccines and where we find ourselves towards the end of this year. But it would have been a very, very nice deal actually. So I was quite annoyed about that.
Beautiful. So yeah, this was an absolute pleasure. One of my favorite episodes, as always, because I love Big Drop quite a bit.
Nice
branding, but the products for sure. So I guess people in the U.S. versus UK or everywhere around the world, where can they just primarily find your products? You can.
So in the US, I think it is a case of just hanging tight for a week or so until the IRS gives us the magic number that means that we can open the US website. And then if you go to, I don't know, what's the US site?
The us.bigdropbrew.com.
us.bigdropbrew.com.
You can pre-register for updates on there. So if you want to join the mailing list, then you can sign up, and then as soon as the store goes live, we will no doubt send you some kind of discount code to sign up to the list. And then we'll hopefully be going from there. So we'll have more traditional kind of distribution deals in place with bricks and mortar retail, and we'll be growing out our online offering. And then as things start returning to normal, you start seeing it in other places in the US as well.
Beautiful. Cheers. Sweet. Sounds good.
No worries. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. I'm enjoying a woodcutter brown ale. I haven't had a brown ale for a while. That's very nice.
What is your favorite, Rob? What is your favorite beer?
Is the stout.
The episode already ended, by the way. We can just talk now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm sorry if you got my 3-year-old screaming his Jesus nuts off. He was just outside the door trying to be controlled by my wife, who was not.
Gives an ambiance.
Yeah, bit of context, bit of background. Yeah, honestly, I do. Yeah, I like the stout. I think it's still like I have other beers that I would drink more regularly, like the Paradiso. I probably drink on a far more regular basis than the stout. But it's our firstborn. He's the eldest son, and I still think it is a fantastic beer. So I think probably the stout. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah,
the
lactic's pretty fire. Not gonna lie, huge fan.
Yeah.
I love the thickness of it, which you guys are talking about, like the lactose in it. Yeah, it definitely shows out for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think they all are pretty good. There are some that are better than others, but most of them are pretty damn good in my biased and humble opinion.
Do you think it's the best beer out there? 100%, like better athletic, better than anything else you've ever tried? Really?
Yeah, I do.
So far, this is better than their stout. Like I haven't tried the rest of them yet, but so far I feel like that your stout definitely goes over there for sure.
I do. I was just sitting here looking at the. I was trying to work out what awards anything's won, but we've won like a lot of awards, and they are all blind tasted. You know, some of them are in our full strength categories. A lot of them aren't, but they're all blind tasted, and yeah, we win a lot. So it's not just me saying that. But then I think it genuinely does come down to the fact that I think Athletic do remove the alcohol on some basis, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if you told me this, Tyler, or whether they brew to strength.
They make it naturally, but they say they don't even do like any sort of rested fermentation. But what I know, they somehow control the sugars enough that it doesn't produce over 0.5% ABV, but they somehow initially make sure like the sugars, I don't know, because there's no leftover sugars. Like their stuff fully ferments, but they say they don't do arrested fermentation. Like I've studied what Bill Schufelt says about their stuff, but obviously he could say whatever he wants.
Well, yes.
He literally can. Like, and that's the other thing. But like knowing kind of the stuff he's been doing, I'm gonna guess he's a pretty honest guy. But that's a whole thing. But apparently it's he kind of reinvented the wheel with it, but I don't think so. I think it's something similar to what you guys do, but they use really good ingredients also, and I think that's kind of a make or break also.
Yeah.
Just ingredients. So I think they maybe just overdo something and, you know, makes up for something. I think that's just kind of the game that we all play. As well, with adding good ingredients, because that's a make or break also.
Yeah. No, that's I wasn't quite sure, but I think their double dry hopped IPA I tried that I was very impressed with that. I thought that was really good. And the Goza was good. I thought that they did. So yeah, I think I mean in terms of quality, I think they're what's going on in the US that they are ahead of the curve. I think.
They seem to have a cult following as well, don't they? Would Chris and Tyler, would you agree?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Apple vibes for sure.
Yeah, it is very Apple-y. And even the limited edition release things and stuff like that, it's almost like getting concert tickets. You know, the way you have to go online at 9 o'clock in the morning to get them. And that, yeah, it does kind of have that cult. Would you say cult-like following? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of what they kind of go for, and like that's why I see Big Drop being such a big competitor, because you guys are like more crafty. I feel like it's like all around the world. Of beers, and I think if that was mainly pushed, especially like the craft all around the world, like I think that's so, because I would love to try beers from like the UK or like specific stuff like that, and then different beers around the US and just all different craft NAs. So I think that is a big differential, like major factor for Big Drop and how it's gonna be much bigger possibly, or as a whole just take over the market compared to like other.
Yeah, I mean I pitch it as mainstream craft. It's not athletic, you know. It's called Athletic for fuck's sake. You know, that's what they've gone for, and we were just like me and James. That's not who we are. That would never stack up as a thing.
There's no one doing parkour on our website.
No,
I think
one.
That's written into the shareholders agreement. Is that like neither of us have to take our tops off to sell beer unless it gets really desperate.
Yeah, buy the beer. Or we take our tops off.
Or the tops come off.
Or we release our 2021 calendar.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's what I was asking from like the marketing standpoint, because it seems like they market their stuff a lot with like communities and like ambassadors and people like that, but you guys are beer. Like beer is the thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you guys market. It's just the final product. It's just simple.
Well, I don't know if you've seen it. I'll try and find the link and send it to you. But there's two blokes in Chicago who've done I don't follow them yet, but you know, obviously they do beer tastings or whatever, and they've got hold of some Big Drop, and you can see, and this is what happens with it. It's the same in Australia. There's a great video in Australia, same sort of thing. These guys, they are not part of Athletics cult following, and they are never going to be part of Athletics cult following, and they're looking at it going, non-alcoholic, this is like a fucking thing now, isn't it? People are drinking non-alcoholic beer, and they drink the stout, and they're like, oh yeah, that's like, okay, shit, I'd drink that, that's nice. And you can see them just going, doesn't commute, this isn't O'Doul's, I don't understand.
You,
And
you
so
can see the
for me,
gears
that's-
like jamming and the smoke coming out of their ears.
Yeah, it's like, how does this not have any alcohol in it? And that's where we're going. It's those guys who, you know, in due course may think, oh shit, yeah, it's Tuesday, I'd love a beer, but it's Tuesday, I'll have a big drop, rather than I'm about to go and climb a mountain next Thursday, I'm going to drink a big drop. Different market, but it's good because there's space. You know, I mean, there's space anyway in the market, so we're not trying to cannibalize, you know, each other's audience. People who drink athletic are probably going to drink athletic. That's fine. Different market. Yeah.
Only helps
Yeah.
for sure.
Sorry to cut across, guys. I just have to leg it. I'm in working at 5 o'clock. So, but lads, thanks so much for joining us. Honestly, it was a real pleasure.
No worries. Good to meet you,
Thanks
Ian.
for having us.
Yeah, likewise, lads. Have a good. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Take care. Cheers, mate.
Later, Ian.
But yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
James, what's your favorite beer? I don't think we hit that.
What'd you say?
Mine.
Yeah.
I tend to drink the Paradiso the most, as Rob says with his. That's probably my favourite go-to. When it's available, the poolside, which is a special edition we did, which is absolute cracky beer. And then if I'm fancying a darker beer, I'll have a woodcutter, which is our brown ale.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Good to speak to you again, guys.
Thank you. It was
I
great.
hope you
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Chris.
enjoy the rest of the beers.
Yeah.
Look after yourself. Stay safe, and I might see you over there for a beer soon.
Sounds great.
Absolutely.
Maybe not soon, but
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
Who knows?
end of the year.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
See ya.
See you later.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys.